Good evening and a warm welcome to you here on the news tonight, where we get you the day's top stories from India and across the world. Of course, today all eyes were in Parliament. It is the last week of the session in Lok Sabha, and there was a lot of action that happened. Tomorrow, further drama to follow. We'll get you all details of that in a bit. I'm Tracy Shilshi, and here are the headlines. Finance Minister appeals to parties to clear the GST amendment bill in Lok Sabha. Congress likely to walk out during voting tomorrow. Government faces hiccup on the real estate regulation and development bill as well. It is deferred once again in Rajya Sabha after opposition insists on sending it to a select panel. Cabinet approves the land boundary agreement between India and Bangladesh. Once ratified by Parliament, the law will enable exchange of enclaves and territories between the two countries. Prime Minister Modi will begin his three-nation tour to China, Mongolia and South Korea next week, announces his trip on China's version of Twitter. And death toll climbs further in Nepal to 7,500 a day after asking foreign aid workers to leave. Local relief work moves slowly. UN estimates nearly 1.7 million children have lost homes and family members in the earthquake. Our top story, the 122nd Constitutional Amendment Bill on GST was taken up by the Lok Sabha today. The Speaker rejected the opposition's demands to refer the bill to a parliamentary standing committee, while Finance Minister Arun Jaitley appealed to all parties to back the bill. He suggested that it should not be sent to a parliamentary committee for review anymore. He said the government's aim to roll out the new tax regime from April next year will fail if the bill was delayed. The opposition party slammed the government, accusing it of bypassing the parliamentary standing committees on several bills. Meanwhile, sources say that the Congress will walk out tomorrow when voting for the bill is initiated, in a way of helping the government to acquire the two-thirds majority in the House. However, it still needs to get the same amount of majority in the upper house, where it is facing a number crunch.
My respectful submission is this argument is no longer valid. That it has not gone to a standing committee. It has spent 2.5 years before the standing committee. Thereafter, it has spent dozens and dozens of meetings of empowered committee of finance ministers under 3 different finance ministers and 4 different chairpersons. It is only then that a consensus between the center and the states, almost a near unanimity, has been achieved at. After that, if we want to delay it, I would suggest no purpose would be served, and therefore the government is extremely keen, and I would literally request you, beseech you, that after all there are some issues in the life of a nation, we have to rise above partisan considerations. I stand here to support GST. Ultimately, after my argument or the argument of the many other speakers, the Honourable Speaker or yourself or the Honourable Finance Minister may agree to refer it to the Standing Committee. I am just presenting my views why this has to be referred to the Standing Committee. I think let us keep the mind open.
Sir, in GST issue, we sincerely hope that the present government should withdraw this piece of legislation in the present form by referring it to the Standing Committee, sir, to reach a broad consensus on all critical issues which create a win-win situation for all, and then bring the legislation for passing in this August House, sir.
We'll request that if these suggestions are taken care by the Honourable Finance Minister, we are broadly, at the very threshold I said that we are supporting, and also we are waiting. Since we are very happy to see your smiling face, we will also smile when we will get our dues amount.
All right, so let's find out what exactly is planned in Lok Sabha and further ahead in Rajya Sabha as far as GST is concerned. Shishir Sinha, Senior Assistant Editor with the Hindu Business Line, joining us this evening in studio. Shishir, thanks so much for being with us here. Just give us a sense, really, of what the Congress is playing at this point, saying that, you know, tomorrow they most perhaps sources saying that they are going to be walking out, giving that two-thirds majority to the government. So most likely in Lok Sabha, everything seems to be okay. Also, Veerappa Moily saying there, we have an open mind, but how are things going to play out in Rajya Sabha?
See, the Congress has no opposition on GST per se. They have some objection on the modalities, on the procedure side. They just want to refer it to the standing committee. But government has a problem. If it doesn't get it passed in the present session of Parliament, then implementing it from April 1, 2016 will be certainly impossible. You have to understand that after passage of the bill in both houses of Parliament, 50% of state assemblies need to endorse the bill. Then it will go to the President for assent. Then 3 legislation, Centre Goods and Services Tax, State Goods and Services Tax, which we call it as the SGST, and then IGST, Integrated Goods and Services Tax. 3 legislation needs to be enacted. After that, Goods and Services Council will be formed. Then the rules will be finalized. Then the rates will be finalized.
Yes.
You just see, we are in the month of May. So how much time do we have? We have not more than 7 or 8 months. And during this 7 to 8 months, we have to fulfill a number of things.
Yes.
So if the government is not managed to get the bill passed in the current session of Parliament, it will be slightly difficult to get it implemented from April 1, 2016.
All right. This is, of course, a tax that was supposed to have been levied about 5 years ago, if, the procedures were followed, everything went on right on its own. Arun Jaitley himself saying that it has been going on, stuck in protocol for so long. We really need to get this cleared. How desperate is the government really? You've pointed out really how difficult is the road ahead anyway for them. But how desperate are the government really to at least make this go ahead, considering that real estate, land bill, there are all these other crucial bills as well, which are pretty much stuck?
See, this is going to be the game changer because we are going to have the biggest tax reform in last 50 or 60 years. This is number one. Number two, after implementation of GST, the whole nation will become one market. Every state will have one rate on various goods. Every state will have one rate on various services. However, there are possibility that rate of service tax may go up from the present 14%, which has been proposed in the finance bill, to say 16% or 18%. It all depends upon what kind of R&R we are going to adopt it. But for goods, the prices may come down. So it will be good for the consumer from the goods point of view. But it may not be good for the consumer from the services point of view. This is number one.
Okay.
But the good thing is that as soon as the volume will grow, the tax rate will come down, and that is also going to benefit the consumer. So it is going to be win-win situation for the consumer as well as the producer. And as the centre has already clarified that they are ready to compensate states for 5 years, so they should not worry. The worry is that manufacturing states are going to lose. But I think from the day one, the gain will be slightly less than what they are expecting, but in say 2 year or 3 year or 4 year time frame, they will start earning more. So it's going to be win-win situation. And please don't forget that we need to create a uniform market to have a higher growth.
Yes.
And most important thing is that GST is going to add at least 1.5 to 2% in our GDP.
That's right. In fact, this is one of the main things which consumers were looking forward to. When the budget was of course announced by Mr. Arun Jaitley, this is one of the things that consumers were actually looking forward to. Very quickly, just give us a sense of where we are seeing the Congress now going to be standing on this. Like you pointed out, they of course got nothing to do. They have nothing against GST. So is it just protocol that they're just going against, and eventually do we see them saying that, okay, let's go ahead and let this go ahead?
No, worry is not only from the Congress, worry is also from AIADMK, because they are strongly opposing the bill. They wanted to change a number of provisions in the bill. So if AIADMK present in the House and votes against the bill, that will be real trouble for the government. So we'll have to keep a watch on AIADMK. Congress may walk out or may vote in the favor of the bill.
All right. We'll leave it there for now. Shishir, thanks so much for joining us and helping us understand really the importance of GST and how the politics around it is being played out. Thank you so much. Meanwhile, staying with the business in Parliament, the real estate bill was once again deferred in Rajya Sabha today. A united opposition insisted on sending it to a select committee of Parliament despite the government assuring to consult all stakeholders and return with the bill for approval.
The Real Estate Amendment Bill was listed for consideration passing in the upper house on Tuesday. But several opposition members objected, saying government had assured that it will be brought only after consultations with various parties. The opposition members once again asked the bill to be sent to the select committee.
वेंकैया जी सब पॉलिटिकल पार्टी से चर्चा करके वापस आएंगे इसी सदन में, बिल नहीं लाएंगे, इस सदन में वापस आएंगे चर्चा करने के बाद कि ये बिल सिलेक्ट कमेटी को भेजना है या नहीं भेजना।
मैं आपका संरक्षण चाहता हूं कि क्या इस हाउस में एश्योरेंस देने के बाद सरकार जबरदस्ती लिस्ट ऑफ बिजनेस में उन चीजों को भी लिस्टेड कर सकती है जो चीजें सदन के सामने थी और जिस पे अभी तक निर्णय नहीं हुआ।
It needs to be further examined. Let's not do behind closed doors. My party's view is that it should go to a select committee. That's all I want to say.
Sensing the mood of the opposition members, the government said it was not insisting on taking up the bill, even though it was listed. Housing and Poverty Alleviation Minister Venkaiah Naidu said he would not take up the bill for consideration till consultations with all the parties is over.
As a matter of abundant caution, the bill has been carried forward for today's business. The consultation process is on. I'll be able to complete in a day or two, and then I'll come to the House, and I'll keep the sentiments of the House in mind. Of a maximum number of readers were suggesting that should be referred to Select Committee. I have that in my mind. I will act accordingly, sir. Once I complete the consultation process, then I'll come back to the House.
The bill was earlier deferred last week. Opposition demanded to send it to the select panel for proper scrutiny. Vishal Daya's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
Meanwhile, the government has reiterated its commitment to the concept of net neutrality. Telecom Minister Ravi Shankar Prasad held out assurances in Rajya Sabha that the government will do everything to protect the rights of consumers. Members cutting across party lines urged the government to put in place a legal framework to protect consumers' rights.
The government has also separately constituted a committee with a mandate to recommend overall policy and technical responses to net neutrality. The committee is expected to submit its report recommendation by this month end. The government will then make a structured view on the way forward. I assure this House the key principles of net neutrality will be followed while addressing concerns with a national outlook.
Telecom Minister Ravi Shankar Prasad reiterating his government's commitment to the concept of net neutrality. In the Rajya Sabha on Tuesday, Trinamool Congress MP Derek O'Brien moved a calling attention motion on this issue. Several other members raised questions against the Telecom Regulatory Authority of India, TRAI.
And I say this with all responsibility, those 10 lakh people, young people, executives, people working professionals, their 10 lakh emails were leaked. They were put up on the TRAI website for 1.5 days. My specific question to the minister, why have you compromised the privacy of these 10 lakh individuals?
Will he do a comprehensive review of the TRAI Act, specifically about sections in the Act that deal with consumer protection and consumer interest?
Your answer has again given us tension that try, your intentions are dubious.
Several members cutting across party lines also asked the government to put in place a legal framework to protect the rights of consumers and support the concept of net neutrality.
रवि शंकर जी, आप ये मत कहिए कि दुनिया के 86 देशों में 74 में कोई क्लियर और इफेक्टिव नेट न्यूट्रलिटी बिल नहीं है। अरे नहीं है तो नहीं है। लेट इंडिया लीड द वर्ल्ड इन making a legislation for ensuring net neutrality. I will urge the government to introduce a internet bill of civil rights.
Does the government have any proposal to make internet a civic right which can be addressed by one and all?
Whether the government will ban certain corporate companies which are against the spirit of neutrality. If not, why? If not, why? Government should answer.
The Telecom Minister urged members to let TRAI's consultation process draw to a close. He held out assurances on protecting consumer rights, stressing that the government and not TRAI would have the final say on the issue.
Therefore, regardless of whatever TRAI does, the final decision is that going to be of the government and government alone. And the government's commitment is reflected in the statement which I have said, namely, the government stands for a non-discriminatory access of internet to the entire people of India.
The government has asked TRAI to consult stakeholders on the concept of net neutrality and submit a report by the end of May. More than 10 lakh people sent emails to the telecom regulator expressing their support for net neutrality. Vishal Dahiya's report for Rajya Sabha Television.
Thank you, sir.
The Union Cabinet today approved the legislation to operationalize the Land Boundary Agreement or LBA between India and Bangladesh. Once approved by Parliament, the law will enable exchange of territories between the two countries. The decision was taken at a meeting of the Cabinet chaired by Prime Minister Narendra Modi and is likely to come up in Rajya Sabha this week. The India-Bangladesh agreement has to be ratified by Parliament through a constitutional amendment bill. The Constitution's 119th Amendment Bill 2013 amends the first schedule of the Constitution to give effect to an agreement between India and Bangladesh on the acquiring and transfer of territories between the two countries on the 16th of May 1974. Now, an additional protocol was signed in 2011. Under the pact, India and Bangladesh will exchange several enclaves which are under each other's adverse possession. The new bill includes territories in Assam along with those in West Bengal, Tripura and Meghalaya. Meanwhile, the Home Ministry issued a statement today in Lok Sabha saying that they are not certain of the location of underworld don Dawood Ibrahim. Minister of State for Home, Haribhai Chaudhary, said that once Dawood is located, his extradition process will be initiated. The government has long maintained that Dawood Ibrahim is living in Pakistan with the patronage of the Pakistani security establishment. Despite repeated requests from Delhi to hand him over, Pakistan has denied any knowledge of Dawood's whereabouts. Key accused in the 1993 Mumbai serial blast, Dawood has a red corner notice against him. Several parties, in fact, dismissed the government's statements on Dawood today, terming it a mere diplomatic approach.
वो अपना रेजिडेंस शिफ्ट भी करता है, उसके जो कीपर्स हैं ISI वो केयरफुल रहता है, उसको शिफ्ट कराते रहता है एकदम NWFP से इधर उधर. तो अगर होम मिनिस्ट्री ने कोई रिप्लाई दिया तो सही होगा.
पहले विपक्ष में और फिर सरकार बनने के बाद तो उन्होंने उनके घर का पता बता दिया था, कराची में है, क्या कर रहे हैं सब बता दिया था. 4 महीने बाद इन पर कौन सा ऐसा दबाव पड़ा, कौन सी इनकी ऐसी मजबूरी हो गई, कौन सी ऐसी परिस्थितियां बन गई कि आज सरकार की हिम्मत बंबई के आतंक के गुनाहों का जिम्मेदार दाऊद का पता बताने में कतरा रही है.
लेकिन हिंदुस्तान सरकार को सोचना चाहिए कि सारे आतंक फैलाने वाले पाकिस्तान के संरक्षण में पाकिस्तान में हैं. हमको मालूम भी है, लेकिन हम क्यों चुपचाप बैठे हैं.
With our quick break here, but still ahead, 2 days before UK votes, opinion polls predict neither the Conservative nor Labour Party is getting a clean majority.
Hello and a very warm welcome to Breakfast News.
Every development worldwide impacts India. What happened overnight matters. Wake up to a complete roundup of world news. Keen analysis to kickstart your day. Watch Breakfast News, weekdays at 8 a.m.
Welcome back. Let's get you some more national news now. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be visiting China between the 14th and 16th of this month, part of a 3-nation tour where he will also go to Mongolia and South Korea. The official announcement of dates for the China visit came on Modi's page on Chinese social media site Sina Weibo. The Prime Minister posted, and I quote, "Looking forward to visiting China from 14th to 16th of May to strengthen friendship between our two ancient civilizations and the two largest developing countries," unquote. The trip, of course, follows a visit by Chinese President Xi Jinping to India last September, where the leaders emphasized cooperation and business deals such as funding for railways. That, alongside strategic issues, are likely to be the focus of talks between Modi and the Chinese leadership. Now, Modi will reach China on the 14th of May. During a 3-day visit, Modi will be visiting Xi'an, Beijing and Shanghai. He will also hold bilateral meetings with the Chinese leadership and will participate in cultural and business events. Modi will also attend an event organized by the Indian community in China. His engagement in Mongolia on the 17th of May marks the first visit by an Indian Prime Minister to the region. He will then visit South Korea during 18th of May to 19th to hold bilateral discussions with the President and meet important business leaders in Seoul. Now to a special report. The quality of life of mothers and children in India's urban slums is among the worst in the world. That's the finding of the State of the World's Mothers report. It says there's a stark inequality between the rich and poor. The capital itself ranks among the worst performers among Indian cities. Take a look.
Their surviving to celebrate their 5th birthday might have improved considerably. But beneath the improvements in slum areas in India's cities are ugly realities of rising inequality on various health indicators. According to a latest report by Save the Children, mothers and children in country, especially in urban slums, need urgent attention. The report says Delhi is among most unequal cities in the developing world. Among the poorest 20% of women, only 27% receive recommended prenatal care, and only 19% have a skilled attendant at the time of birth. For the urban rich, it's 99%. Talking of children, only 56% of the children in these slums get measles vaccination compared to 98% of the richest. In terms of child malnutrition, Delhi finds itself at par with Kigali in Rwanda and Addis Ababa in Ethiopia. India scored 140th place out of 180 countries.
In this country, in my opinion, there are only two types of people, haves and have-nots. And we should focus on those have-nots and give them the facilities which they are entitled as a citizen of this country.
Releasing the report, Minority Affairs Minister Najma Heptullah raised concerns on the issue. On the positive side, India has made substantial progress in reducing the infant mortality rate. But even today, over 7,60,000 newborns die in India every year. Many of these deaths are due to preventable reasons like diarrhea and sepsis.
Need a multi-sectoral planning of healthcare delivery in the urban setting so that we can cover not only the rich, urban rich populations through large hospitals and the few government or teaching hospitals that we have, but we have facilities to provide healthcare to right down to the slums that are recognized or even the unrecognized slums.
Achieving targets means access to quality basic preventive and curative health services, which means more investment in urban health systems to reach out to the poor. Anshu Jaising's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
International Newsline. Rescue teams in Nepal have reached among the worst affected areas hit by a series of avalanches in the aftermath of the earthquake. The overall official death toll has crossed the 7,500 mark, with thousands still unaccounted for. Now, a day after it asked foreign rescue teams to leave, the nation is struggling to get on its feet. Here's a report.
Dead bodies pulled out of the rubble in just a few hours. Thousands still believed trapped within. This is Langtang, 130 kilometers north of Kathmandu, once one of Nepal's finest trekking destinations. Landslides after the April 25th earthquake wiped out entire villages in this belt. Work is on to pull out more bodies. No survivors expected. 10 days after the earthquake, clean-up operations have begun in some areas, though there's no sight of normalcy just yet. For the survivors, life is just about prayers and hoping.
It will take time, I think, 10 years, not less than 10, because the government of Nepal is not taking too much interest.
At relief camps in and around Kathmandu, people look to move out whenever possible, try to pick up the pieces. Most here have lost their homes. International aid agencies are pitching in a big way here. There's some focus on help for children to overcome the trauma. UNICEF had put the number of children who lost homes, family members and healthcare at some 1.7 million.
A child-friendly space. We've started this for the children who's been displaced because of the earthquake last week, and we have started many of these child-friendly spaces in different places in the valley, and we plan to move to the districts also.
UNICEF is also spearheading vaccination drives for the children as disease emerges as a major challenge across Nepal.
We vaccinated children in tent settlements like this throughout Kathmandu Valley, but also in districts beyond. We are targeting 500,000 children under the age of 5 to be vaccinated against measles.
Then there's repair of the heritage monuments at the center of Nepal's tourism industry, which in turn is central to Nepal's economy. Experts put the bill for this at $2 billion. A lot will depend on international aid.
I can say you 90% heritage are damaged. Some are partly cracked, some are total demolished, some are we want to demolish. I promise you 5 to 7 years. It takes time. We can rebuild again.
So many pieces to pick up. 10 days is hardly even a start. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha Television.
Meanwhile, ahead of general elections in the United Kingdom on Thursday, it's the final push to woo voters with the two main parties, Conservative and Labour, pulling out all stops. However, with opinion polls predicting none of the parties likely to get an overall majority in the 650-seat parliament, potential kingmaker parties are also making their pitch for power. Here's more.
Vigorous campaigning on in Britain. The final push to win over voters ahead of parliamentary elections on Thursday. Opinion polls show Prime Minister David Cameron's Conservative Party and the opposition Labour Party led by Ed Miliband running neck and neck. Neither on track to win control of the House of Commons on their own.
Closing hours of this campaign, you can make all the difference with our country moving forward, not going backwards with Ed Miliband and the SNP. That's what it's about.
Let's elect a Labour government and make this country work for working people once again. Thank you very much.
Administrating country's state-run healthcare system, controlling immigration and boosting the economic recovery of the country are the major issues of the day. UK's European Union membership is also a big factor. However, with the prediction of a hung parliament, power will likely hinge on the performance of smaller parties such as the Scottish National Party and the Liberal Democrats.
If the SNP emerges from this election in a position of influence, we will exercise that influence responsibly and constructively. And we will always seek to exercise it in the interests of people, not just in Scotland, but across the whole of the UK.
Voting begins at 7 a.m. on the 7th of May. Around a sixth of people are registered for postal votes, so they may have already voted. In the 2010 elections, the Conservatives, despite winning the highest number of seats at 306, did not have a simple majority in the 650-member House of Commons. A Conservative Liberal Democratic Party coalition government is presently in power. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
That's all we have for you on the news tonight from the entire team here. Good night.